Where did you grow up?
I was born in Brooklyn at Fort Hamilton. I lived there till I was about 5 or 6, and then we moved to the suburbs of New Jersey, and I lived in Ridgefield, New Jersey, which I discovered had been an artist colony. I had no idea, around the turn of the century. And then we moved, when I was in 6th grade, we moved further in the suburbs and moved to Livingston, New Jersey, and I went to high school there.
What is your earliest memory?
Oh, we lived in Brooklyn, and the lady, it was a duplex, and the lady had a garden in the back. And I remember picking and eating parsley, because I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, but I did it anyway. I must have been 3 or 4 years old. That's one of my earliest memories.
Who are the most influential adults in your life?
Of course, there was my father and my mother. I was very close to my father. My mother was very, she was very, my brother and sister were born when I was 7. And so there were little babies in the house, and she got very preoccupied with the babies, and they were very, very close, almost a year apart. So there were, the babies were there. So, I mean, my father sort of entertained me, so I became very close to my father. And then we had similar, he had these artistic interests, and I thought that was fascinating. And music and drama, all that stuff. So there was that, but then there was a peculiar thing, and I had all my relatives outside of the family. I had the Swedish relatives, my grandmother, and my great aunt, and her that whole side of the family, and her husband. Musta was my great aunt. And then I had the Scottish side of the family, and they all lived in Long Island. It was sort of this strange country that we used to visit. Because they were Catholics and went to Catholic school and knew girls who were going to become nuns and things. I was living with all these, little Jewish accountants in New Jersey. Everybody was Jewish, and then they were all and they had. Everything was different. It was like going to another world. It was very bizarre. I would wander around and go, who are these people? What are they doing?
What were you really good at?
Well, I was good at school. I was a good reader. I loved reading, so I was always in the big reading group, and I could spell, and I was very good in school. So I was very good at that. I was tolerably. We didn't play too many games. I mean, I had a bicycle and everything, so even though I was tolerably athletic, we played hopscotch and skated around, and we did all that stuff. And I could swim. So in comparison to my contemporaries, they seemed fine. Until I hit adolescence, and I went away to camp, and everybody had to swim according to, Hoyle. And they had to do the crawl, and I'd always done the breaststroke, and they had to dive a certain way and all that, and I had never done any of that. So I wasn't, I struggled along with that. I was good at archery, though, for some reason.
What do you remember about your first job?
I guess my first job wasn't until I was in college. And what did I do? I think I got one of these jobs in spring vacation because I wanted to pay for an acting class. And we were doing something with surveys down at some religious institution, some Protestant thing. And I was bored to tears, but I needed the money. I guess that was true of a lot of my jobs. I was just bored, but you needed the money.
Who was your first crush?
Well, I was in love with Jerome Power, even though he was dead. Necrophilia. I used to see all of his old movies on television in New York. They had all these old movies, and I was absolutely in love with Jerome Power. I had all these people. Jerome Power was one of them, and nobody else even knew who Jerome Power was, which sort of was an advantage because I had him to myself. No, but there were no competition. There was no competition for Jerome Power. Actually, we met somebody on the fly who'd done some publicity for 20th Century Fox or something, and she had met Tyrone Power. It was like she had met the Dalai Lama. I thought this was a really big deal. She had met Tyrone Power. And then there was a there was a guy in my orchestra who played the oboe that I used to stare at the back of his head a lot. He always had a beautifully groomed head, like the back of a horse.